Hey, what's up, CEOs? Welcome in, welcome in. Let's do this. Oh, why is this looking like this? I want to welcome in, welcome to the How to Sell More with Webinars pop-up Q&A. My name is Marque, Coach Nick, and I help entrepreneurs launch, grow, and scale their ideas into profitable businesses. And over the last really 6 years, multiple six-figure business by leveraging virtual events. If you are not using a virtual event to grow your business, you are leaving money on the table. This past week, we did our 3-day How to Sell More with Webinars challenge. And so if you are, whether you're here live or watching the replay, just drop in the comments if you've attended the challenge. If you have not attended the challenge, you can join the wait list at sellingwithwebinars.com/register. Let me see if I can put that on the screen. Sellingwithwebinars.com/register. Listen, today we are doing a pop-up Q&A where I'm going to answer some pre-submitted questions. And so what I'm actually going to do to start out is we did a really good Q&A last challenge. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put that video up and let you hear some of those pre-submitted questions, because it really covered everything from filling your webinars to different industries and how to position a webinar. And I think it was really great. But at the end of this video, I am going to do live questions. So please drop your questions inside of the chat. And at the end of the video, or at the end of the call, I will answer those questions live. I also want to know where you're tuning in from. Where are you tuning in from? What do you do? And what are you looking to gain out of leveraging webinars in your business? For those of you who are just joining, again, my name is Nicholas Marque, Coach Nick to my clients. And I've grown a multiple six-figure business using this strategy, using this method, and getting strategic about my business. At the end of the day, the difference between those who are successful and those who are on their way to success is implementing strategy and taking action. So we are going to transition to some pre-submitted questions, and then at the end of this call, I will answer some live questions, and we'll get this thing started, y'all. All right, let's dive in. Everybody, welcome. We are live on YouTube. Welcome. My name is Coach Nick. Let me see if I can go here. I'm rolling solo dolo today, hailing all the way from Fort Walton Beach, Florida, at my mama's house. Okay. And so I'm excited today because we are going to do a pop-up Q&A for our webinar, How to Sell More with Webinars 3-day challenge that just happened this week. It was fire. The community was fire. The challengers are fire. Determined. I already see some of y'all working on implementation, which is so important. So what today is about just answering some of your questions. So over the week, we've gotten some questions from our challengers. We've invited our VIP members inside of the room with me, so you can just drop your questions in the chat. And then if you are watching me on YouTube, you can drop your questions in the comments, and if we have time, we will definitely take over from there. But for those of you who are just watching me the first time, my name is Nicholas Marque, Coach Nick to my clients, and I am a business strategist, a launch strategist, a coach who helps entrepreneurs launch, grow, and scale their ideas into profitable businesses. Now, one of the ways that we do that is we teach you to create a launch event. You need to build hype for your offer, whatever that may be, whether you are a coach or consultant and you're helping people transform and get a result. Maybe you're an agency owner and you're helping people actually do a thing or providing a service. Or maybe you're a service provider and you are looking to incorporate ways and implement ways to strategize getting in front of more leads and making more sales in your business. That is my drive. The way that we do that is to create a launch event. So this past week, we had a 3-day challenge where I taught business owners how to sell more of their products and services leveraging webinars. If you are not using webinars inside of your business, what are you doing? You are leaving money on the table. And so this week was dedicated to picking that money up. If you would like to sign up for the next challenge, you can go to sellingwithwebinars.com/register and get registered for the next challenge. If you are part of this challenge, we opened up our boot camp early for our next cohort, and you can check your emails and click the link to learn more about that. So let's get started. We have some pre-submitted questions from some of our recent and past challengers. So we're going to jump in. So Regina is a college prep coach. Hey, Coach Nick. Hey, Regina. I help high school students and parents navigate college prep and scholarships. My question is, how do I make my webinar feel urgent when college prep is something people tend to procrastinate on until last minute? So it's interesting. I don't know if this is the Regina from the current challenge or one of the past challenges, but I actually talked about this on the challenge. People don't move unless you give them a reason to. So if you have not figured out what motivates people to take action, 9 times out of 10, they're going to drag their feet into taking action. So a couple of things you can do as far as, because your question is, how do I make my webinars feel urgent when college prep is something people tend to procrastinate? Number one, that means you might be targeting the wrong audience. So if you look at what we talked about on day 2 with your ideal client avatar, one of the key factors in is this someone that I should be targeting is, do they have a sense of urgency about the problem that I solve, right? So number one, we want to identify, well, what would that urgent pain point be for that client avatar? Are they moving from junior year into senior year? And are they moving from junior year into senior year? And maybe they want to make sure that they're ahead of the game. Are their children currently in senior year? Because I think the lady Regina who was on the call was like, by the time they're at the end of senior year, usually they have things already picked out. But if they are in their senior year, I don't know, like, if it would be a thing that they would be like on the verge of, like, maybe I didn't get the best grades or I didn't, do really well in school. And now, they've waited till last minute and they want to get into college. They want to get into college, but like they don't know if they qualify, right? Depends on what market you're serving. You want to really identify, well, what's the urgency for them? And then you want to speak into that in your messaging and your framework and your offer, so on and so forth. Always choose a market who the problem is urgent for, that they want to get this solved now, right? And here's what I'm not saying, okay? Here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying to not to serve anyone else. But when we talk about targeting, on my call, and we'll call you back. Sorry, my grandmama is calling me. Call you back. Okay. When we're talking about targeting for marketing, you want to think, if I'm going to invest time, energy, and money to market my products and services, who is worth the investment of my time, energy, and money? If I were to put $500, $1,000, $2,000 into ads, who would I want to target that would be more than likely to get me an ROI on my investment, right? That would buy my offer, that would be interested in working with me, interested in the topic. That's what you want to lead with when you're targeting. It's not that you can't serve people who maybe it's not urgent for. You just don't want to target that. Good question. All right. Marcus is a fitness coach. Coach Nick, I'm a fitness coach for busy professionals. Okay, let's go with the targeting. I've tried posting content consistently, but I'm struggling to get people to actually register for webinars. How do you get people to stop scrolling and actually sign up? This is a really great question. So the first thing I want to talk about is that you're constantly posting to get people to sign up for your webinar. Inside of the challenge, I talked about the 3 fast paths to leads, right? This is how we fill our webinar. So while you should be networking, while you should be posting on social media, you should be emailing your email list, you should be doing all of those things. Those are slow paths, right? Those are paths that you're playing the long-term goal. The faster paths are things like events where you're speaking or vending. Again, you're getting on stage, you are creating your talk, captivating the audience, giving them a little bit of transformation, and at the end you're going to extend the invitation for them to join your webinar. If you're vending at an event, right, you're there, you have your table, you're going to talk to people about what you do, you're going to let them know that you have an upcoming training and get them to sign up for your webinar. So events, speaking, or vending, right? That's one fast path. The second fast path is partnerships. Is my audience already hanging out that I can go and partner with that influencer, partner with that organization, partner with that group, and structure a partnership program for them to refer people to my webinar or help fill my webinar, right? And again, there's a very specific strategy and process for that. And then, so we talked about events where you're speaking or vending. We talked about partnerships. You're going to leverage other people's audiences and partner to fill your webinar. And then the last piece is digital advertising. Which platform is my audience already hanging out on that I can pay to position my brand and webinar in front of that audience? Right? So a lot of times we struggle, y'all. We struggle with growing our business. We struggle with getting leads. We struggle with doing all the things because we are leveraging slow paths, right? And so when you use those 3 fast paths, not only are you filling your webinar, but you're filling your webinar with buyers and not just attendees. Great question. All right. Dr. James. Dr. James is a consultant. I work with small businesses on operations and systems. My audience is more analytical and logical. Oh, I serve an analytical and a logical audience too, Dr. James. How do I structure a webinar that still converts without sounding overly emotional or hype driven? This is a good question. Y'all are asking some great questions today. So here's the thing, right? Even if you serve a logical market, when they get to the point of sale, when they get ready to pull out their credit card and pay you $500, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever, they are buying in an emotional state, right? People buy for one of 2 reasons: because I want it to relieve a pain point, or I need it to solve a problem, right? So people are buying in an emotional state. So you have to do a great job of orchestrating your webinar to balance emotional resonance as well as serving their logical brain a little bit, but you also want to leave that itch, right? That they can do this with your help. There's 3 beliefs you have to build on any webinar. That is the belief that you are the expert, right? Why should I believe this person? What qualifies them to speak on this topic? What gives them the authority to lead me on this topic? You have to build that belief. And you do that through like your story, right? We talked about this in the challenge. You have to build the belief in your system that your process, your mechanism can help them get to the result easier, faster, more efficient. And then you have to believe you have to build the belief in them that they can do it with your help, right? And we do this through testimonials, we do this through storytelling, we do this through objection handling. Those are the 3 beliefs. And in each of those beliefs, All right. So the belief in you, the expert, you have to balance emotional and logical. Your emotional side is inside of your story, your rock bottom story, how you discovered the process, everything we talk about in the challenge, right? The logical side is your credentials and again, your results. When you're building the belief in the system, the emotional side is going to be the benefit and the payoff for implementing the system to get to the result. The logical side are going to be the steps, right? Your 3 to 5 key points. And then building the belief in them, the emotional side is going to be through your case studies and testimonials and transformational stories. And then the logical side is going to be here's why this makes sense for you to do this with me, right? Here's why this makes sense for you to get an ROI. That's how you balance the two. But you have to do both, right? You have to speak to both. You have two buyers on, I'm getting into some things. You have two buyers, two types of buyers on your webinars. Or there's just two types of buyers just in general. Emotional buyers and logical buyers. But here's the thing. It just depends on what the situation is. If you scrape your leg or if you get a paper cut, before you go to the hospital, you are in logical buyer mode, right? Does this hurt to the point where I really need to go to the hospital? But if that paper cut gets infected, right? Because when you go to the hospital, you got to pay a bill and all of this stuff. But if that paper cut gets infected and your finger is swelling up, well, at that point, you're an emotional buyer. I don't care how much it costs. Get it right? Like fix it, right? Now you are in an emotional state. But I was at first I was in a logical. I was a logical buyer, right? I just went and bought a Band-Aid. But then I was an emotional buyer because the pressure got to the point where I needed something to solve a problem. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Welcome in. If y'all are just joining, welcome in. I am doing a live Q&A for our How to Sell More with Webinars challenge. Feel free to pop your questions in the chat if you are watching me over on YouTube, and I will answer them accordingly. Okay, answer some more pre-submitted questions. Erica is a business coach. Coach Nick, I feel like my offer is too broad right now. More than likely it is. How do you know if your offer is clear enough to actually convert on a webinar? Okay, so when I first started this, my offer was broad too, right? Like I was trying to serve any and everybody. I could be your VA, I could be your virtual assistant. I could be your virtual assistant. I could be your I could build your website, I could manage your social media. I would be doing all of these things, right? Planning your event because I was an event planner. But then year one, we made like $10,000, right? And that was just because it was a pandemic. I was trying to figure out this world and we were just trying to get it to how we could get it, right? Year two, we made about a little over $64,000. And mind you, I was doing any and everything. And charging way below market for doing any and everything. $64,000, right? Year three is when I crossed the 6-figure mark. And actually, for those of you who attended the challenge, we are doing a pop-up training tomorrow called Beyond the Control Room, where I'm going to be kind of going over how I leverage this system to build a multiple 6-figure business. And the first thing that I did actually was work with the coach. And the coach told me you need to cut out like 90% of your offers and just go full on one offer, right? And then grow from there. So it's when I got focused, I got laser focused on, okay, this is who I serve, your ideal client avatar. This is the problem that I solve, and it needs to be specific to them, and it needs to be urgent to them. And this is how I solve that problem, my unique mechanism, and these are the results that people can expect from me. So you need to answer those 4 questions. That's 4, right? Yeah. You need to answer those 4 questions. And if you can't answer those 4 questions in like 2 sentences or less, your offer's too broad, or what you're focusing on is too broad, right? Let me give you an example, right? So this is who I serve. I serve corporate professionals who are ready to replace their who hated their job and wanted to replace their income with revenue from their side hustle, by turning their side hustle into a business. That's who I served. What problem do I solve? I teach them how to successfully launch their business in 90 days or less. How do I do that? Through my trial method and creating a launch event. What results can they expect? That they will successfully launch their business in 90 days or less. They will successfully launch their 6-figure business in 90 days or less, because most of the people that I serve are either doing like high 5 figures, or that I was focused on targeting, either we're doing high 5 figures or 6 figures in their corporate job, and they wanted to replace that income. So I needed to speak into that, right? So if you can't clearly say that, that's okay. What you need to do is you need to just work on that and then refine and tweak until you can concisely answer those 4 questions. If you are all over the place answering those questions, you're not concise and you're probably too broad, right? And just work at it. It's a great question. Latasha, speaker and ministry leader. Ooh, I know you are probably charging cheap. How do I structure, I already knew this question was coming. How do I structure a high ticket offer so it feels valuable without overwhelming people with too many bonuses or too many features? Just speak to the result that you help people get. And if you're here, Latasha, I'd love to know more about what your offer is, like what problem you, again, go back to what I just said, right? Who do you serve, right? Who's your ideal client avatar? What problem do you solve? How do you solve that problem, or what's your process, and what results can they expect? Speak into that in your pitch, right? And speak into like the true value levers, right? Again, we talked about emotional and logical buyers. You have to speak to both. So you need to speak into why this is going to work for them, why this is the process. And then not only that, like you paint the picture inside of your content, but then when you make your offer, you want to focus on what's the value that people are getting, right? And then what are the things that I need to tell them to get them to bring them to the point of making a decision, right? So there are some times where you need to tell people the features. Like, I need to know, if you're going to charge me $10,000, how much access do I have to you? How am I, like, I'm a very busy person. So how does the content work? Is it evergreen? Is it live teaching? I need all of that information to make a decision. But what I don't need to know is like, it's 56 modules, and in module 1 through 5, here are the exact lessons and the exact things that we're covering. That's not what we need. But what we do need to know is everything we need to know to make a decision, right? Do I need to invest in this? And this is going to benefit benefit me to get to the result that I'm looking for. Okay, great question. Especially for my people in ministry. Here's the thing, right? I love that you put that you're a ministry leader, but when you are talking about your business, here's the thing. You don't need to lead with that, because there's like this notion, it's not that church people are cheap, but church people can be cheap, right? And when you lead with church, I think it's cheap because, again, like, church is free. The love of Christ is free, right? These things are free, and it should remain free. When you're thinking about your business, don't allow your business to be the vehicle. Don't allow your ministry to be a vehicle for the business. Allow the business to be a vehicle for the ministry. What I mean by that is you could be a minister, but just lead with what is the result you're helping people get, right? Don't charge them for church, but you can charge them for a conference and experience. Don't charge them to minister to them or to speak life into them, but you can charge for faith-based spiritual life coaching, right? I can help you navigate this place you are in life, whether that is you're questioning your marriage, you're making a career decision, you're trying to grow your business, you are having a midlife crisis, you're an empty nester, you're suffering from grief, I can help you navigate that through faith-based life coaching, right? So I provide life coaching using faith-based principles. I hope that was clear. All right, let's see. Nicole is a course creator. How do you balance giving enough value on the webinar without teaching so much that people feel like they don't need the offer? This is good. So there's this notion out here that in webinars, you don't teach the how. I'm a believer you teach and you don't teach the how, but you teach the what and the why. I'm a believer you focus 80% on the what and the why, but you got to give like 20% of some of the how. But the way you do that so it doesn't sabotage your sale is you give them the how that leads to your offer that helps them implement what they just learned, right? So, for instance, in my business launch secrets masterclass that I used to do to sell my From Passion to Profit launch coaching program, right? I would tell them, I would tell them that they needed to charge more. And I would explain, like I had like a matrix, the rule of zeros, right? If you charge $1 for your product and services and you want to make $10,000, it's going to take 10,000 sales, right? If you charge $10,000 and it takes this many sales, 100, this many, all the way up to 10,000, right? And for those people who already had offers, I told them you are going to increase your pricing so that you can hit your revenue goals. And the way you do that is I think one piece was you communicate to your current clientele, hey, I'm so grateful to serve you. In 90 days, we will be increasing our prices our cost for services because we are serving you at a higher level. And, this is how, these are some things that we're going to be doing to enhance how we serve our clients, right? That was a little bit of the how, but that's not, again, that was a little bit of the how, 20% of the how. The real how was when you joined my program, I taught you how to charge more. What goes in an offer so that you can charge more, right? I didn't give them the full shebang. And not even because I didn't want them to. I didn't want to, but because, number one, the webinar is only 90 minutes. There's only so much I can give you in 90 minutes or in this time frame. If you want to go deeper, then we can work together in order to do that. So you just need to figure out, you need to look at your webinar framework. And if you join the boot camp, we can look at this together and I can show you how to do this, right? But you need to look at your webinar content and you need to say, okay, am I covering 80% of what and why? And then when I'm covering the how, is it giving too much away that's in my program or my offer? Or am I like over delivering? And the thing with over delivering is people, well, it's called analysis paralysis, right? People will be stuck, and when people are stuck or overwhelmed, they don't buy. They don't buy. Okay. This is good. Let me check and just see if I have any questions on YouTube. Welcome in, everyone. If you have a question, drop it in the chat. I see I have a couple of watchers. Okay. Cameron is an entrepreneur and speaker. How do you know when it's time to stop piecing things together and actually build a real system for lead generation and sales in your business? You need to do that from the start. From the start. Here's the thing. If you are truly building a business, right? You need to be thinking from the start, how can I structure this in a way that is going to lead to the result that I'm looking for, right? What you should be leading with the question of what systems do I need? What's going to be my strategic approach to this? I don't want you to get stuck there, right? But you need to put a plan in place to execute. Where a lot of people go wrong, especially for my new business owners who are starting a business is we just start a business and we don't launch a business, right? And the thing about just starting, I do want you to just start, but I also want you to be intentional about where you are in the process and what you're doing, right? I want you to be intentional about the questions you're asking and the strategic approach you're taking to launch your business, right? So I would say if you are piecing things together, this is the time where you need to build a actual system, real system for lead generation and sales in your business. And I would encourage you to join the boot camp so we can show you how this is done. And again, like I said, tomorrow we're doing Beyond the Control Room, which I will put that link in the chat. But we are doing Beyond the Control Room where again, I'm going to show you my system that I use to build a multiple six-figure business. Okay, I thought I sent it here. I'm going to show you my system that I use to build a multiple six-figure business and do it consistently and grow from there. All right. Let's see. I'm just kind of skipping around here. Sheila's a transformation coach. I know my framework works, but what I'm struggling with is how to simplify it for a webinar presentation. How do you avoid overwhelming the attendees? Okay, so I just answered this question, so I'm not going to go too much deeper on this. Again, you want to make sure you're teaching the 80% of the what and the why, 20% of the how. And again, the how should really be something that's going to better explain why they should join you and work with you to implement. I'll take the challenge, right? So for instance, I teach the 3 fast paths to leads, right? That's how to fill the webinar. And those are the 3 fast paths that we use to fill our webinars consistently. But you need to work with me if you want to learn like how to do outreach to potential partners, what to say to event organizers to get booked on their stages or become a vendor. How it's a whole lot that you need to know about launching successful ads on social media so that they convert, right? What to look at as far as analytics to know if it's successful or not. Like those are things that we can work together on. It's not because I don't want to give that information to you, but number one, it takes time to explain all of that. It takes resources and templates to make it easier for you, and that stuff it costs, right? It's an investment that I had to make to prepare and that you'll have to make in order to get, right? You want to take the same approach with your offer. All right. Let's see. Kevin is an agency owner. How important is follow-up after the webinar? I feel like I lose people after the event ends because I don't really have a nurture system in place. Super important. Most of your buyers will come during the follow-up. And people don't want to tell you that. I'll tell you that because I want you to understand to manage your expectations. The money is in the follow-up. That is nothing new, right? The money is in the follow-up. And if you don't follow up, you're leaving a lot of money on the table and you could be serving more people, right? I'm dropping the link to join the Beyond the Control Room event inside of the YouTube chat. So go ahead and register for that event. So you can join me tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. All right. Okay. Yes, you need follow-up, right? And you need to automate it. Tomorrow on the Beyond the Control Room, I'm going to show you behind the scenes of my system of how we automate, how we follow up, how we nurture. I'm going to pull back the curtain on that. So make sure you're inside of that event. Okay. Let's see. Was that all the questions, team? Brianna is a wellness entrepreneur. I'm struggling with packaging my expertise into an offer people will actually pay a premium price for. How do you know what should be included versus what should be left out? Well, so this is a loaded question. And if you have been a part of the challenge, I would encourage you to look at day 2. We left the replays up for a little bit longer. So I would look at day 2. Yeah, day 2, we talked about offers. The first step, I'm not going to go through all of it on here because we just don't have enough time. That's why you join the 3-day challenge. The first step in creating an offer is to model. You don't want to make up anything new. Um, and when I say anything new, I'm not saying to copy, but I'm saying you need to understand what's working, what the market is already buying, right? Um, you need to understand who your competitors are, and y'all don't believe this uh ludicrous notion that I don't have competitors. I'm in a league of my own. If you think that way, your business is probably not doing what you need it to do, right? Um, Fortune 500 companies, right? I worked with Fortune 500 companies, worked for Fortune 500 companies, and I want to say everyone that we did always did a competitive outlook or a competitive analysis. They knew what their competitors were doing, what products they were bringing out, how it was doing in the market, what the response was, and then the goal was how do we compete? Right? If you shift to that thinking, you don't have competitors in the sense of like the emotional piece where it's like I'm not as good as them or whatever. You have competitors in the sense of let's see what's working and how we can jump in the game, how we can get in the game, right? That's the goal. All right. So the first piece of that, Brianna, is you need to model. You need to research what is already out there in the market, and then what I encourage my clients to do is to sell over the phone first or call first, so you can make sure that you are creating an offer that people will pay for and that people want, right? Um, And it's not about nixing the offer if people aren't buying. It's about what tweaks and what optimizations do we need to make so that we can get the results that we're looking for. It's good. Okay. Um. All right. Devin, new to entrepreneurship. Okay. Coach Nick, I don't have a big audience yet. Me neither. Maybe a few hundred followers. Do webinars still work for people who are starting small, or do you need a huge platform first? Again, I would listen to my 3 fast paths to lead spiel. It actually doesn't matter how large or small your audience is when you're filling your webinar because you're going to use the 3 fast paths, which is essentially using other people's audiences. Candace is a nonprofit founder. I serve women coming out of domestic violence situations. My concern is that my audience genuinely needs help, but many don't have money immediately available. How do you ethically sell high ticket offers to audiences dealing with real life challenges? First, don't sell to a broke market. Okay, so again, go back to day 1 where we talked about your ideal client avatar, right? So your ideal client avatar is someone who you enjoy working with, someone who can pay a premium. They have the means and resources to pay a premium, and then someone who has a sense of urgency. So here's the thing: rich women go through domestic violence situations too. So you need to make sure you are speaking to wealthy women. And I know that's a serious topic, domestic violence, but they do, right? And the thing is again, you can start a nonprofit later to serve a market who cannot invest in your services. But that's not where you start out. You got to help yourself before you can help anyone else. So the way you help yourself in your business is by serving a market who has the need that you can satisfy, and they have a problem that you can solve, and they can pay a premium for it, right? That is the goal. And again, I'm glad you said you're a nonprofit founder. If you're looking to make money now, okay, so if you're doing your nonprofit, there's grants you can get to support that, and Then the offer actually becomes like sponsors, donors, like you are serving that market, leveraging your services as what they're in programs as what they're funding, and events as vehicles, right? So here's something that I mentioned on our challenge as well. For some of you, the audience you're serving is not necessarily your ideal client avatar, right? If you are serving the homeless community, then the goal, especially as a nonprofit, the goal is who's funding, who's already funding um, initiatives that serves that market, and then how can I position what it is that I do as a vehicle for them to fund what we're doing over here, right? Your ideal client avatar is funders, right? People who can afford to invest. The people you serve is somebody totally different. Same thing if you're a motivational speaker that focuses on, youth in schools, right? Your audience is youth and teenagers and the people that you're motivating, but your ideal client avatar are decision makers in the school system, decision makers in the youth programs who have the budget and access to the budget to pay you to provide that service in that talk. All right, last question. Shay is an author and speaker. Coach Nick, I've hosted free workshops before, and people tell me they loved it, but then nobody buys. How do you transform from teaching into selling without losing the room? Go through the 3-day challenge. Go through the 3-day challenge, because this is literally what we are teaching, right? You start selling when before the person even opts in to attend your webinar, right? That's a loaded question, right? You are selling from the messaging inside of what they're going to get from this free training. You are selling in the nurture process you have in place until that person gets on the webinar. You are selling through your content that you are presenting to them and transforming their lives. And then you are selling when you are pitching the offer, right? So selling starts at the very first piece in the apart strategy. If you're a part of the challenge, if you know, is awareness. That's actually where you start selling, right there, right? If you're doing it from that point, then at the end of the process, they are going to buy. Even if they don't necessarily buy on that webinar, they would buy in the follow-up process, right? If you are starting from the beginning, if from the start you are selling, right? And join the challenge because we show you how to do that. Okay, so listen, I hope that this has been valuable. Let me make sure I don't have any other questions on YouTube. I hope that this has been valuable. Listen, if you are interested, got a white all on my lips. If you are interested in selling more with webinars and you have not attended my challenge, you can go to sellingwithwebinars.com/register, and you can register for the next challenge. If you are a part of the current challenge or you've been a part of my current challenges, right now we have our boot camp open for the next cohort. You can look at your email and you can find the link to learn more about that. And if it's for you, I'd love to support you over the next 90 days to 6 months in launching your signature webinar selling system. And then I am also hosting a pop-up training tomorrow for Beyond the Control Room, where I'm going to show you how I've leveraged this system and go a little bit deeper and behind the scenes on how I leverage this webinar selling system to build a multiple 6-figure business. So with that said, thank you for your time. Remember that you deserve to thrive and not just survive, baby. And I will see y'all on the next call.